Hello and welcome to another edition of Issues with Jide. Here we'll talk about actions and inactions of those who shape our national and political landscape and how these impact us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Sheeta. Today on the show, EFCC arrests, detains Emefiele after regaining freedom. And later on the show, PDP, Labour Party outraged over Tinubu's Supreme Court victory. In the course of the program, we'll take your questions, but first subscribe to our YouTube channel and drop your questions in the comment section. It's important to mention that we can only read comments whose names are clear and are about the issues discussed. Now, while I have joining me via Zoom, the maestro himself, Babajide Toju. It's good to see you, BKO.
Good to see you. Good to do this with you again.
Right, former CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele is currently being detained and interrogated by the EFCC after he regained his freedom from the custody of the DSS. This is an interesting twist in the travail of Mr. Emefiele after he became unpopular with his monetary policies. BKO.
Yes, we didn't see this coming. We didn't see it coming at all, but I've been told that it was just a presidential directive, and um, the DSS had no choice but to release him to the EFCC so that they can continue their own investigation. These things happen. Sometimes the police will hand over a suspect to the DSS so that they can do um, some comprehensive investigations of their own. Sometimes it's the military that will hand over a suspect to the DSS. So it happens sometimes to on the issue of mandates. Sometimes, in order to be in line with the dictates of the law, this kind of handover happens. Um, as, as we know, there are some agencies, some of the security agencies mandated to carry out certain functions. And if in the course of investigating Emefiele, certain discoveries were made, and the authorities deemed the EFCC most appropriate as a law enforcing agency to undertake that particular investigation. This sort of handover will happen. Emefiele is still being investigated, and I want to believe that at any point, even the DSS may still be required to do some work along the line of its investigation. But what has happened is purely a presidential directive, and the DSS was asked to not just um, uh, release them to the sister agency. The DSS was also advised to release the EFCC, the former EFCC chairman as well. During the period of his detention in June, a lot of discoveries have been made along the line of the probe of the CBN itself, and his case brought the case brought against him, for which he is seeking what they call plea bargain, is still very much on. They are still talking, so no decision has been reached, nothing ruled out currently. As part of um, piling pressure on Emefiele, he was told to resign, and he resigned. Shortly, the CBN announced his official resignation shortly after. Yemi Cardoso was appointed CBN governor in substantive capacity. So a lot has happened since Emefiele was detained shortly after his suspension by the president. And I believe the probe in the probe of his time at the CBN, during which the CBN's finances were never audited for one day, is ongoing. Every Nigerian who has now suddenly realized that, contrary to the lies that we were fed, that we had $33 billion in the foreign reserve, only to discover that we do not even have up to $5 billion in our foreign reserve, is something that truly bothers many Nigerians, and a lot of them are not happy with the way Emefiele ran the CBN, distracting himself from the core mandate of the of the CBN, getting involved in both monetary and fiscal policies, whereas he should have limited himself to just one rather than the two. So the CBN has nothing to do with fiscal policies of government. But Emefiele got involved in that. Emefiele got involved in even agriculture, and the CBN became jack of all trades and master of none. And during this period, Nigeria lost so much money. We have to interrogate how we suddenly moved from a country with substantial money in its foreign reserve to less than 5 billion. If JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs had not alerted Nigerians, many Nigerians would still have been thinking that we actually had more than $30 million in our foreign reserves. It is testament to the inglorious era of Emefiele that such heresies happened within the CBN, and Nigeria is worse for it, because we are not, even if we wanted to defend our currency with with our stock of foreign exchange, we can't do that. We don't have that security of a considerable portion of dollars in our foreign reserve. We do not have that buffer anymore. We do not have that security anymore. So you can see that the foreign exchange market is not supplied sufficiently. It's not funded sufficiently by the CBN.
That's right.
In the past, the CBN used to push about $1.5 billion into the foreign exchange market for trading. Today, we struggle to even push $200 million into the foreign exchange market in a whole month. So that is what has worsened the liquidity crisis in the foreign exchange market. And you cannot blame Emefiele for pretending over a chaotic situation that allowed our foreign reserves to decline rapidly to less than $5 billion. And Nigerians were not told that we were actually owing some companies like Goldman Sachs, like JP Morgan. They didn't include it among the debt stock of our country.
Yeah.
But today, that is the situation that we found ourselves. So even if you want to defend our currency and stop the rapid decline of our currency against the dollar and other international currencies, we do not have the funds to make that
That's right,
happen.
BKO.
It's a terrible day, and as a Nigerian, I'm really worried, and I believe that those who have played a part in bringing us to our knees, because we've been brought to our knees now, those who have played a part in making that happen, they deserve to be prosecuted.
Absolutely.
They deserve to rot in jail because they've compromised the future of promising young
That's right, BKO.
Nigerians.
Now the Senate is considering bills seeking to ban both governor and deputy governor of the Apex Bank from participating in politics. Recall that Godwin Emefiele picked up the 100 million naira presidential nomination and expression of interest forms of the APC. Do you consider this a welcome development?
I think it's a welcome development. You never can tell that in future we won't have another CBN governor like Emefiele, a thoroughly politically exposed CBN governor like Emefiele. No one can bet that that can't happen again. The only thing we can do is to um, use the law, use the law to ensure that that doesn't happen again. Emefiele even went to the point of going to court to stop anyone, including INEC, from barring him from taking part in the political process. Now, I've never seen a CBN governor so thoroughly politically exposed as the last man, and that was why his main responsibility he failed spectacularly because he should have busied himself with his core mandate. But some individuals intent on making money off him deceived him that he was the nicest individual around who could be president of our country, and for that reason, he felt he was good enough to occupy the number one seat of our country. So, if we can use the law to stop that sort of uh, aberrant behavior by a CBN governor from happening again, I'll be happy to see us use the law to stop that from happening again. So kudos to the lawmakers for the efforts that they've made or that they are making to ensure that no CBN governor, no CBN governor combines its responsibility with political
That's
aspiration.
right. Okay, so Sunday Salami says Emefiele should be made to account for the amount used to print new notes. Equally, tell us the true intentions behind the new notes. Banji Okesoto says our current challenge could be traced to Emefiele, who Jide once described as the worst governor CBN ever had. Fabian Akaise says Yemi Cardoso has refused to release the names of the farmers that benefited from the Anchor Borrowers Program and have refused to pay. How then can you call this justice by any standard? Nelson Adefe says greed is Emefiele's problem and a lost focus even from the beginning of his appointment. However, it should be punished and dealt with for ruining the lives of several businesses and national economy. We need to race on to our second topic because of our time, because the Labour Party as well as the PDP has rejected the judgment of the Supreme Court affirming the victory of President Bola Tinubu. While the PDP described the judgment as disappointing, the Labour Party is calling on the international community to rise and defend democracy in Nigeria. What's your assessment of their reactions so far?
It's totally expected. I expected them to come out with eyes blazing, come out, show their anger at the way the judgment went. It's not totally unexpected. Labour Party says it's a sad day for Nigerian citizens committed to the birth of our country, and Abure called on the international community to rise and defend democracy in Nigeria, saying the judgment has shredded. The judgment is shocking and surprising. I'm trying to see if I could even come up with his quote. We are indeed very shocked. He said that the leadership of Labour Party watched as the sacred fabric of justice and good conscience was shredded today at the Supreme Court. We are indeed very shocked and surprised that even the apex court would toe the line of the earlier judgment, in spite of the laws associated with the flaws associated with the judgment delivered by the Presidential Election Petitions Court. It is very clear that the executive has hijacked both the judiciary and the legislature. That is what Aburi said. I am particularly disappointed that a Nigerian could be calling on the international community to rise and defend democracy in Nigeria. How? How are they to rise and defend democracy in Nigeria? Is it by by intervening in our matters and chasing away a government that Nigerians voted for? I don't know how what Abure particularly meant, but again, I'm not really shocked that it went this far. Then, of course, the PDP also said it is disappointed by the outcome, having filed 86 grounds of appeal, with all those grounds dismissed for lack of merit. The PDP is in a fighting mode. They are very angry, and this is what the PDP is saying. It is indeed a sad commentary for our democracy that the Supreme Court failed to uphold the provisions of the law. Instead, it trashed the expectations of the majority of Nigerians who looked up to it as a temple of impartiality to deliver substantial justice in the matter regarding the cases, laws, and facts. Interestingly, the PDP, in its response, also talked about the matter of 25% in Abuja, arguing that it's a provision of the Constitution and that it shouldn't have been decided. Now, how do you still talk about 25% in Abuja as a condition for being elected president? You can't be talking about 25% in Abuja if you are a serious person. There is no country in the world where that stipulation is enshrined or is inserted into their electoral laws. I've been asking Nigerians to tell me which country in the world has such a stipulation that you must win a very small portion of the country before you can be president. I've always said that what this means, what this ridiculous argument means, is that you could actually win 36 states and not have 25% in Abuja. And for that reason, they will say you can't be president. Do these people sometimes think before coming up with this argument? Because how do you say that all Nigerians are equal electorally when you imagine that one small portion of our country, their votes are superior to the votes of the rest of us? Is it just because you want to win an argument that you then become irrational? I mean, it makes no sense for people to think in this manner. It makes absolutely no sense. Justice Anthony Inyangokoro said the people who sat down to writes our constitution, if they wanted Abuja to have a special status, they would have said that in black and white. But what they meant was, oh, you need to have 25% in 24 states, including Abuja, which means that if you have 25% in 23 states and you had Abuja, that will make 24 for you. That's the intent of the Constitution. They never intended that one portion of our country, a very tiny portion, would then have the rights that other states do not have. What is in Abuja that you cannot find in Lagos or even Kano or Port Harcourt or Rivers? It's very ridiculous, and to think that the PDP will come up in response to their loss at the Supreme Court, will be talking about 25%. It just shows me that the person who came up with the press statement does not know what he's doing. It's not even in America where we borrowed our version of democracy. Do we have this kind of situation? Nobody will say you must win California, as big as California is. California is bigger than many countries. Nobody will say you must win California. Nobody will say you must win New York, another very big state. Nobody will say you must win the oil producing Texas, big state as well. So this is a needless argument. The elections have been won and lost. The Supreme Court has made this decision clear. The attempt of the PDP and Labour Party to rubbish the integrity of the Supreme Court is something that I worry about, because when the Supreme Court gave a verdict in respect of the Osun governorship election, some of the issues that came up at the Presidential Election Petitions Court had already been decided, were similar to some of the issues decided during that Osun governorship election petitions trial. When they favored them, they hailed the judiciary. Today, because this verdict did not favor them, they are trying to rubbish the Supreme Court. They are trying to give the impression that there's nothing good in our judiciary. Yet, a good number of them had at one time or another benefited from the judiciary. No one is saying the judiciary is perfect. Of course, they made mistakes. But we do not have anywhere else to turn to. It still remains the last hope of the common man. Therefore, we should not run down the Supreme Court with our mouths.
That's right.
Some people carry their pictures, and some are even publishing addresses of business premises of their children and all that. Why have we degenerated to this level?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to react to what Senate leader Opeyemi Bamidele said. You know, he cautioned opposition parties against stampeding the judiciary into partisan politics through disinformation, malinformation, and misinformation in pursuit of their selfish, according to him, in pursuit of their selfish interest against the collective interest of Nigeria and Nigerians. So, BKO, how would you describe the behavior and attitude of the main opposition parties and their supporters throughout these electoral matters saga? Would you say you are proud of their conduct?
No, I can't be proud. Anyone even calling for foreign intervention in Nigerian matters does not know what he's doing. That fellow has lost rationality. So for Abure, who has not cleared himself of forgery allegations here in Nigeria, to go to the extent of saying all of the things he's saying, it shows that he's a borderline hypocrite. So I'm not impressed with the way they conducted themselves. I expect that, yes, people will be angry at the way the election went. This was a closely fought election. Definitely, people will not be happy about the way the outcome of the election, the outcome of the judicial process. But those judges followed the law. For the PDP to be saying they went against the law, come and teach us now how they went against the law. In which instance did they go against the law? They won't be able to point at anything. We told them when they went to the US to waste money that you cannot bring fresh evidence because electoral matters, electoral litigation is by nature different. It's not like civil matters. You are not going to be afforded any extension. After the 180 days, you are not going to be afforded any extension. We told them, but they didn't listen. They said we didn't know what we were saying. But that's what the law says. I told them that the Supreme Court does not have a witness box. So it is not even in the place of the Supreme Court to decide matters related to forgery. That is, matters related to forgery are handled by the Federal High Court, not an electoral court, not an election petitions tribunal. No. We told them about this 25% in Abuja. They also didn't listen. These days, people have lost rationality. They will not even look at what the law says. It's just their opinion. They want to force their opinion on everybody. Even if they are not making sense, they expect you to just accept what they are saying. They are not ready for a healthy argument, and that is why we are where we are. People just want only their opinion to reign in the hearts of people. You have to convince people.
That's right.
You have to convince people. That's the essence. We must have healthy arguments. We can't build a nation when people are not ready to listen to one another. We must be ready to listen to one another. If you are making sense, I should be able to say, okay, my friend, I agree with what you are saying. I think you are right on the money. I agree with you. But that's not what we are saying. People just want, just their opinion must carry the day. Come on. I mean, this is a very poisonous behavior. And we have brought it into the electoral process.
That's right.
How do you say that it's very clear that on the points of law, the judges did the right thing. Look at what Justice Agim said. He said the deposition did not have the seal even of the Nigerian embassy, because this is something from a different, from another jurisdiction. It has to have that seal for it to be admissible. Their lawyers should have told them, should have ensured that they did what was right. And in any case, they should have got the Chicago State University to give them a letter indicating that they reject in its entirety the certificate in contention. But they never got that. And there is nowhere in which the deponent said, no, this certificate is fake. Nowhere.
That's right.
In any case, even if they got all of that, the big elephant in the room will have been whether the Supreme Court will accept this evidence so late in the day. I knew all along that it will not be accepted.
That's right.
It will not be accepted. You are not going to be allowed to reframe your stuff.
That's right. Okay.
After not bringing it before the lower court. You are not going to be allowed. The Supreme Court busies itself with looking at what the lower court did, whether the lower court conformed with the law or not. The Supreme Court does not entertain fresh evidence. Never. That's not how. That's not its duty.
Right.
And it's not in its place to help you determine whether something is forgery or it is not forgery.
All right then.
So this is the thing.
Right. Because
We need our country to move on. We need our country to move on. These people need to come together. The politicians are the problem of our country. We need to see them come together. Enough of their greed for power. Greed for power that is not benefiting the ordinary Nigerians. They need to come together. If the country burns today, it is it will burn because of the irresponsible conduct of politicians in our country. And this is not the first time. Even in the 80s, they are the ones who will go and call the military to come and take over power just because they lost election. They've been doing that for years.
You saw that they almost did that this time round too.
So look at that one. Look at that one saying they should calling on international community to do what? International community to come and do what in Nigeria? Are you whining me? Do you know what you are talking about?
That's quite interesting. Well, Banji Soto says, shame onto Atiku and Obi for defaming Nigeria, all in the name of politics. Godwin Osato says, Obi was out there to destroy Nigeria, knowing full well that he lost. Nelson Adufe, on this presidential litigation, I can beat my chest that the judiciary has done their due diligence. The problem is lawyers of PDP and Atiku who are professional parasites and making all the dollars. That's according to him. Fabian Akaize says, I blame every Nigerian politician for this crisis. The Nigerian youths are unemployed and idle. Therefore, they can be easily manipulated as they spend all their waking hours on X, IG, and TikTok. Joseph Omotayo says, the rise of Obi is as a result of Buhari's misrule, putting the economy in jeopardy. However, Obi is falling the same way he rose. Just production, this will be the last I'll be taking. When Supreme Court reinstate Obi, they were good then. When they prevent Obasanjo from removing Atiku, they are excellent. But now, when the matter goes against them, Supreme Court is biased. Because of our time, BKO, this is already, more than 30 minutes, which we planned on doing today. That will be our show for today.
I particularly like all the comments. I like all the comments, but the last point, the last comment that you read, talking about when Obasanjo tried to bully Atiku, the Supreme Court said no. You cannot chase Atiku away because it's a joint ticket. Obasanjo wanted to send him packing. The Supreme Court came to his aid. Atiku defeated Obasanjo like 12 times on the bounce. Thanks to this same judiciary. If Atiku will join them in destroying the judiciary, then shame on him. Because this same judiciary was there for him when he had nobody to rescue him from Obasanjo's high-handedness. The Supreme Court, the judiciary, saved him. Today he's watching his people attacking, calling the judiciary names. That is the same judiciary that he has benefited tremendously from. When he defected from the PDP and joined the AC, they wanted to, as a result of that, it was the current governor of Kaduna State, Ubasani, went to court that the court should declare that he was not a candidate because the law says the votes belong to the party. And Atiku had left the PDP. The PDP at that time. The Supreme Court ruled by split decision of 4-3. It was a tough day in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled by a verdict of 4-3 in favor of Atiku. Today, Atiku appears to have forgotten because of his unbridled appetite for power. He has forgotten all that the Supreme Court did in his favor.
Yeah.
He would not have been the person that he is today if the Supreme Court had allowed Obasanjo to crush him at that time. If the Supreme Court had allowed Senator Obasani to crush him at that time. But he won by a narrow margin of 4-3 at the Supreme Court.
That's right. That's right.
Today, the shoe is on a different foot. They are calling the Supreme Court names.
That's where we see the Nigerian
Nigeria is
politics.
greater than Nigeria is greater than each and every one of us. We have to be careful what we say and what we do.
Ubani Amal says, apt and balanced analysis as always. And that's our show for today's edition of Issues with Jide. Special thanks to you, Babajide Kolade, for those insightful analyses as always.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Thank you. Rich Madam.
All right then, and thanks to you to our audience for joining us on every edition. You can see the program again anytime by subscribing to our YouTube channel, TVC News Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button to get the latest information. You can also follow us on our social media platforms at TVC News NG. I'm also at Ibrahim TVC News. On behalf of the rest of the team, I'm Ibrahim Shita. See you again next edition. Bye for now.